Chapter 11 and 12 of The Grand Babylon Hotel. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Anna Simon. The Grand Babylon Hotel by Arnold Bennett. Chapter 11. The Court Pawnbroker. Mr. Sampson Levi wishes to see you, sir. These words, spoken by a servant to Theodore Racksole, aroused the millionaire from a reverie which had been the reverse of pleasant. The fact was, and it is necessary to insist on it, that Mr. Racksole, owner of the Grand Babylon Hotel, was by no means in a state of self-satisfaction. A mystery had attached itself to his hotel, and with all his acumen and knowledge of things in general, he was unable to solve that mystery. He laughed at the fruitless efforts of the police, but he could not honestly say that his own efforts had been less barren. The public was talking, for, after all, the disappearance of poor Dimmock's body had got noised abroad in an indirect sort of way, and Theodore Racksole did not like the idea of his impeccable hotel being the subject of sinister rumours. He wondered grimly what the public and the Sunday newspapers would say if they were aware of all the other phenomena, not yet common property, of Miss Spencer's disappearance, of Jules' strange visits, and of the non-arrival of Prince Eugen of Posen. Theodore Racksole had worried his brain without result. He had conducted an elaborate private investigation without result, and he had spent a certain amount of money without result. The police said that they had a clue, but Racksole remarked that it was always the business of the police to have a clue, that they seldom had more than a clue, and that a clue without some sequel to it was a pretty stupid business. The only sure thing in the whole affair was that a cloud rested over his hotel, his beautiful new toy, the finest of its kind. The cloud was not interfering with business, but, nevertheless, it was a cloud, and he fiercely resented its presence. Perhaps it would be more correct to say that he fiercely resented his inability to dissipate it. "Mr. Sampson Levi wishes to see you, sir," the servant repeated, having received no sign that his master had heard him. "So I hear," said Racksole. "Does he want to see me personally?" "He asked for you, sir." "Perhaps it is Rocco he wants to see, about a menu or something of that kind?" "I will inquire, sir," and the servant made a move to withdraw. "Stop!" Racksole commanded suddenly. "Desire Mr. Sampson Levi to step this way." The great stockbroker of the Kaffir Circus entered with a simple, unassuming air. He was a rather short, florid man, dressed like a typical Hebraic financier, with too much watch chain and too little waistcoat. In his fat hand he held a gold-headed cane and an absolutely new silk hat, for it was Friday, and Mr. Levi purchased a new hat every Friday of his life, holiday times only excepted. He breathed heavily and sniffed through his nose a good deal, as though he had just performed some Herculean physical labour. He glanced at the American millionaire with an expression in which a slight embarrassment might have been detected, but at the same time his round, red face disclosed a certain frank admiration and good nature. "Mr. Racksole, I believe, Mr. Theodore Racksole. Proud to meet you, sir." Such were the first words of Mr. Sampson Levi. In form they were the greeting of a third-rate chimney-sweep, but, strangely enough, Theodore Racksole liked their tone. He said to himself that here, precisely where no one would have expected to find one, was an honest man. "Good day," said Racksole briefly. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" "I expect your time is limited," answered Sampson Levi. "Anyhow, mine is, and so I'll come straight to the point, Mr. Racksole. I'm a plain man. I don't pretend to be a gentleman or any nonsense of that kind. I'm a stockbroker, that's what I am, and I don't care who knows it. The other night I had a ball in this hotel. It cost me a couple of thousand and odd pounds, and, by the way, I wrote out a cheque for your bill this morning. I don't like balls, but they're useful to me, and my little wife likes 'em, and so we give 'em. Now, I've nothing to say against the hotel management as regards that ball. It was very decently done, very decently, but what I want to know is this: why did you have a private detective among my guests?" "A private detective!" exclaimed Racksole, somewhat surprised at this charge. "Yes," Mr. Sampson Levi said firmly, fanning himself in his chair, and gazing at Theodore Racksole with the direct earnest expression of a man having a grievance. "Yes, a private detective. It's a small matter, I know, and I dare say you think you've got a right, as proprietor of the show, to do what you like in that line, But I've just called to tell you that I object. I've called as a matter of principle. I'm not angry, it's the principle of the thing.' 'My dear Mr Levi,' said Racksole, 'I assure you that, having let the Gold Room to a private individual for a private entertainment, I should never dream of doing what you suggest.' 'Straight?' asked Mr Sampson Levi, using his own picturesque language. 'Straight,' said Racksole, smiling. 'There was a gent present at my ball that I didn't ask. I've got a wonderful memory for faces, and I know. Several fellows asked me afterwards what he was doing there. I was told by someone that he was one of your waiters, but I didn't believe that. I know nothing of the Grand Babylon, it's not quite my style of tavern, but I don't think you'd send one of your own waiters to watch my guests, unless, of course, you sent him as a waiter, and this chap didn't do any waiting, though he did his share of drinking.' 'Perhaps I can throw some light on this mystery,' said Racksole. 'I may tell you that I was already aware that man had attended your ball uninvited.' 'How did you get to know?' 'By pure chance, Mr Levi, and not by inquiry. That man was a former waiter at this hotel, the head waiter, in fact, Jules. No doubt you have heard of him.' 'Not I,' said Mr Levi positively. 'Ah!' said Racksole, 'I was informed that everyone knew Jules, but it appears not. Well, be that as it may, previously to the night of your ball I had dismissed Jules. I had ordered him never to enter the Babylon again. But on that evening I encountered him here, not in the Gold Room, but in the hotel itself. I asked him to explain his presence, and he stated he was your guest. That is all I know of the matter, Mr Levi, and I am extremely sorry that you should have thought me capable of the enormity of placing a private detective among your guests.' 'This is perfectly satisfactory to me,' Mrs Sampson Levi said, after a pause. 'I only wanted an explanation, and I've got it. I was told by some pals of mine in the city I might rely on Mr Theodore Racksole going straight to the point, and I'm glad they were right. Now as to that fellow Jules, I shall make my own inquiries as to him. Might I ask you why you dismissed him?' 'I don't know why I dismissed him.' 'You don't know? Oh, come now. I'm only asking because I thought you might be able to give me a hint why he turned up uninvited at my ball. Sorry if I'm too inquisitive.' 'Not at all, Mr Levi, but I really don't know. I only sort of felt that he was a suspicious character. I dismissed him on instinct, as it were. See?' Without answering this question, Mr Levi asked another. 'If this Jules is such a well known person,' he said, 'how could the fellow hope to come to my ball without being recognized?' 'Give it up,' said Racksole promptly. 'Well, I'll be moving on,' was Mr Sampson Levi's next remark. 'Good day, and thank you. I suppose you aren't doing anything in Cafes?' Mr Racksole smiled a negative. 'I thought not,' said Levi. 'Well, I never touch American rails myself, and so I reckon we shan't come across each other. Good day.' 'Good day,' said Racksole politely, following Mr Sampson Levi to the door. With his hand on the handle of the door, Mr Levi stopped, and, gazing at Theodore Racksole with a shrewd, quizzical expression, remarked, 'Strange things been going on here lately, huh?' The two men looked very hard at each other for several seconds. 'Yes,' Racksole assented. 'Know anything about them?' 'Well, no, not exactly,' said Mr Levi. 'But I had a fancy you and I might be useful to each other. I had a kind of fancy to that effect.' 'Come back and sit down again, Mr Levi,' Racksole said, attracted by the evident straightforwardness of the man's tone. 'Now, how can we be of service to each other? I flatter myself I'm something of a judge of character, especially financial character, and I tell you, if you'll put your cards on the table, I'll do ditto with mine.' 'Agreed,' said Mr Sampson Levi. 'I'll begin by explaining my interest in your hotel. I have been expecting to receive a summons from a certain Prince Eugen of Posen to attend him here, and that summons hasn't arrived. It appears that Prince Eugen hasn't come to London at all. Now, I could have taken my dying davy that he would have been here yesterday at the latest.' 'Why were you so sure?' 'Question for question,' said Levi. 'Let's clear the ground first, Mr Racksole. Why did you buy this hotel? That's a conundrum that's been puzzling a lot of our fellows in the city for some days past. Why did you buy the Grand Babylon, and what's the next move to be?' 'There is no next move,' answered Racksole candidly, 'and I will tell you why I bought the hotel. There need be no secret about it. I bought it because of a whim. And then Theodore Racksole gave this little Jew, whom he had begun to respect, a faithful